I've had a look through my Andrew Loomis book again. I'm going to have a go at this portrait that he did of this small child, and I'm going to draw it freehand, but I'll run through that fairly quickly, but I'll explain why I traced it in the end to do my watercolor study, and explain why I think that was a good idea. I started with the circle, and I've divided it in half and drawn the center line, and now I've marked out where the brow hairline will be, the eyebrow and the chin by dividing it up using the Loomis method. I say this is not necessarily a Loomis demonstration, I'm just showing you how I've used it. And I've got the Loomis method here to show me where all the features should land, but I'm using my sort of drawing skills to put things in the right place, which we'll find out whether they're any good or not. So I can use negative shapes, which I tend to look at, where I can take reference points from perhaps these lines as well to see where the eyes go and the shape of the nose and so on. But I think I've decided I'm going to use the drawing and the painting as two separate entities, really, that I think I shall practice the drawing separately, but I will continue to trace for portraits in watercolor until I get to the point where I can draw them accurately. That although this turned out okay, it was far from accurate. That it looked okay from the point of view that the features were all in the right place, so the Loomis method is getting me on the right track there. But I need more practice to pay closer attention to put things in the right place still. That it goes to show with portraiture you only have to be off a fraction, which is why you can see so many people trace to start with their portraits, which is fine. But for me, I would like to be able to do it freehand one day, but you've got to be realistic that that's not going to happen overnight, and the mistake is to just go for it with a bad drawing. I think I did it for years, and so I've learned from my mistakes. There's no point in doing a watercolor on this drawing here because it's just not accurate enough. It's okay for a practice, but so what I did decide to do was to trace it. That also I overworked the paper. I was rubbing out and fixing things and so on, so it's damaging the paper as we do this, so the watercolor will perhaps even react in some of the areas on the paper. So you could argue that it's better to do your drawing on other paper and then transfer it to watercolor paper. So I'll compare my freehand drawing to the reference, and then let's have also a look at the traced version, and I can then use that as a teaching aid to see where I went wrong. So I made it too narrow at the bottom. I think that was the issue. Let's say still fixing it now, but best to start again sometimes. So that's the traced drawing. So you can see where I've made a few errors. It's the eyes and nose and mouth are perhaps in the right place, but just minor shape changes. And now I can compare it there, and it's all to do with the chin down the bottom there. It's too pointed, but anyway. So with my traced drawing, for an accurate start to this, I shall start with my lightest value with a bit of yellow ochre, and I'll paint that yellow ochre in the whites of the eyes as well, because the white paper would just be too bright. And I'll paint up into the hairline, and actually I think I'll paint the hair. It'll unify the painting, and also that'll be the highlights for there, and even on the whatever she's wearing. And then I'll take some Azarian Crimson, and I shall look at warming up some of these areas and just let it run, not necessarily down there. But by painting wet into wet, we are going to get this softness around the eyes and so on. Going to be connecting the hair up as well. But aiming to retain some light And if I've painted over areas where I only light, I can just lift off a little bit with the brush. I'll take some burnt sienna. But because the paper is very wet, don't want to be adding too much in the way of water. Just paint into the hair there, because we're going to use that to connect up. So leave some highlights behind. Follow the hair. Something like that. And down the side of the face, which is receiving less light. It's starting to dry, so I shall just manipulate that with the brush. Don't want any hard edges. Let's go some cooler areas. That's on this side of the face. Again, no hard edges. It's got to be soft. And there's always this awkward stage where it just doesn't even look like a person. But until we get the darks in, it won't. But we'll save those darks for last, the real darks. But where I need to paint wet into wet, that obviously needs to be done while the paper's damp. Cool the side of the face off. So it's always a play of warm and cool, a bit of red in there. I think the problem with doing your painting on a drawing that you know isn't quite right, for me, find that it's your heart's not in it, because you almost know it's going to fail before you even start, and it will show in your painting. So I think it is important to have an accurate drawing, because your painting will suffer. And if you're trying to learn to paint, what makes you think that you can do a good watercolor on a bad drawing? We've all done it. But it's never going to happen. So you were wasting your time. So there's always, even starting with a very accurate drawing, which I've got the traceable here, that I know I will veer away from the drawing at some point during the painting process. But you just accept that. I'm not necessarily looking for a perfect rendition of Andrew Loomis's drawing here. But, I'm making up the colours as we go along, so that's a challenge in itself. But there's always this awkward stage here where it doesn't even look human at the moment. But you've got to get through that. It will develop into a painting of this child, but it will take a bit of time. So, we just got to get the light areas in, the mid-tones, the darks, refine, sort the edges out, and it will get there eventually. Let's use a bit of cadmium red. So we need to knock that back quite a bit. The secret for painting, well, any of the features really, are to let them blend into the face. Soft edges, maybe hard edges along the top. Slightly darker towards the outer edges. This is receiving less light. The cheek here. Again, don't really want a hard edge in there, so just soften that. So let's have a go with the eyes. The eye just gets lost into that shadow. And so it's all just very delicate. Now dry paper down here so we can get those darks in, but not too harsh. So I think it was a wise move to use the traceable for a more accurate drawing to be doing this study with, but maybe a colour reference would be good as well. It's all just a bit of fun. Then let's get some darks in the hair. Dry brush maybe, try that. Just use a bit of water. I think we can have a bit of softness in there. Now let's just have a look to see what area needs to be darker. It's definitely perhaps darker over here. I think keep it cool. Maybe even transition from cool to warm. Remove your red cheeks. Bit of that red over here as well. Dropping water everywhere. You can see how this sharp edge here is a problem. So all we're going to do is just soften it. Purple works quite nicely. And it's starting to take shape now, so you can almost sort of a sigh of relief at this point where you get those darks in. It's starting to look okay. Still, I'm never totally happy with my paintings. That I will always pick faults in it, but it's better than I have done in the past, and that's kind of what I judge things on. That is it the best I've done at the moment? That I've got years and years ahead of me to paint to get better. So I'm not worried about it just yet. But although I traced, I still will practice my drawing. It's so important that don't give up on the freehand drawing is my advice. Basically with watercolor, wherever you make it wet, it will follow. In there. And this is where we can connect the top. What colour top should we have? Got some cerulean blue here, maybe. The water. Get the right darks in the eyes. Careful not to go too harsh with the features. If anything, play safe and leave a few things out that perhaps don't need to be in. Just a little bit more rouge. We'll dry it a little bit lighter. The background on. So over this side of the portrait we'll have sort of in the shadow, so we'll soften some of these edges by painting into that, and even over the side of the portrait. And then we'll go nice and sharp around there. Use that blue to unify the painting. I've got a lot of warm oranges in the face area, and obviously the blue on the top there. Maybe back down to the purple. crisp edge along there. So, lesson learnt. Need to have an accurate drawing. Probably have a good reference with the colours, but it's acceptable. So hit the like and subscribe if you enjoyed the demo, and let me know in the comments what you think, and I'll see you on the next video.